Hey everyone, this is the MotoAlliance podcast. I'm Peter Kapsner and Kevin Book, General Manager of MotoAlliance. I feel like it's about time for you to lead us into this podcast. I'm always the one introducing this podcast, and you're sort of the secondary voice with your deep baritones that come in after me. When are you going to jumpstart us?
I don't know. I mean, I think until it feels like I'm reciting the very same thing that you're saying, which I feel like is not far off. That's when I feel like I would be able to do it. Otherwise, it'd be like, can we do an additional take? Can we do it again? Let's do it again. We don't have time to do it again.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah, and especially when we have such an esteemed guest like we have today on this one. And he's joined us once before, but it was sure fun for us located in Minnesota to get our eyes on the Utah community and some of the more, I guess it's not Midwest, it's sort of pseudo-West and West community. I guess I don't know where to put Utah in this. Bud Bruening, what do we do with you in Utah? Where are you in the West? You're not in the Midwest. Where are you exactly?
I think we're considered the West, so not necessarily Midwest, but just West. Obviously there's further states to the west of us, but we're kind of on the West. I think they kind of put us in the West, and I'm flattered that you say esteemed, because I definitely cannot live up to those credentials. I can assure you that.
I love it. Well, you run such a great community on Facebook as part of the Utah riding community, and we've just gotten to know each other a bit over these last few months, and we're threatening to make a visit out your direction in Utah sometime this fall, just so we can better understand how the riding in Utah is quite different, I'm sure, than the Midwest. If Kevin and I were to come out and we come into Salt Lake City, Bud, I think we're both sort of food snobs on some level, right, Kevin? I mean, so is there cuisine in Salt Lake City that you think is sort of unique to the location that we just absolutely have to try?
I am sure there are some locations that you would definitely have to try while you're here. I don't know if they're unique to any particular food style would be unique to Utah, but we definitely have some amazing cuisine here in Utah. So when you come out, we'll have to make sure that we hit those key places and give you a proper introduction, because we do have some great cuisine here. We have it's a great location. Obviously, it's hot in the summer. I think we're going to hit over 100 degrees today. It's going to be a hot one. But in September, October, it's beautiful riding weather. You're looking anywhere from 70s to mid 80s. Just beautiful weather. And obviously we got hit with a big winter last year. It was our biggest winter on record ever. I mean, our ski resorts out here recorded over 900 inches of snow. So, I mean, it's a lot of snow here in Utah.
Did that do anything to help the Great Salt Lake? And I guess all I really know, I'm just going to exhaust my knowledge of the Salt Lake by saying Great Salt Lake.
I just love that you're going there.
I know.
Like, but we don't even have to talk about this.
We don't, but I'm just so curious. He talked about 900 inches of snow, and all I see, Bud, in my rudimentary knowledge of the Great Salt Lake is that there's some apocalyptic events happening, that it's shrinking or releasing sulfur or something in the atmosphere. Can you talk me off the ledge? Is it really that bad, or what is it like?
I will tell you, I am not the expert on this. All I know is probably as much as you've read as well. I do know that for the last 2 years, they have a marina at the Great Salt Lake, and that marina has been closed because there's been no water. The water receded so far that the marina was no longer accessible to boats.
That sounds extreme.
That does.
Yep.
Problem. Yep, it has been a problem, and they do say, because the Great Salt Lake, obviously it's a lake that has rivers going into it, but there are no rivers that exit, and that's what creates the salt water. They do say that by the lake, receding and the lake bed being available to wind and dust, that there are toxic chemicals at the bottom of that lake that have been there for who knows how many years. So I do know that Utah is trying to solve a problem as far as keeping water going into that lake. Try to keep water levels high, and this year that marina did reopen. So the fact that we got a ton of water, we've had a lot of flooding in Utah with a lot of rivers and everything else flooding. We had a lot of avalanches over the winter, but all that water has been a great resource. A lot of our lakes that have been extremely low have come up. One of our big lakes in southern Utah called Lake Powell. It was a lake that was extremely low. It's come up 65 feet, and that lake, it's a big one. It has more shoreline than the western United States. So, I mean, it's a big lake.
So,
wow.
I think what I hear you saying then, Bud, is that you are affirming Peter in his being sort of the expert of the Great Salt Lake.
Clearly, I didn't even know I was, but that clearly does affirm that.
Yes.
I think he has far more knowledge about it than I do, probably, is what I'm saying. But it does sound like it is correct. Yes, there is toxic dust that they are worried about. and the water levels have certainly helped. It's been a big year for water in Utah, so something that we desperately needed.
What did that do for you guys riding in the winter with all that snow? Did it make it more fun, less fun, different fun? What was it like?
There are still roads and trails in our mountains here that are impassable because of snowdrifts.
What? It's 100 degrees in Utah, bud. How can it be that really there's that much snow?
There is. When you get up in the higher elevations in Utah, you get up around like 9,000 to 11,000 feet above sea level. A lot of these trails are still impassable because of snowdrifts that are 5 to 10 feet deep. There's still a lot of snow up there in the mountains. Some of it they're saying will not melt this year.
That's incredible. There's a news story going around right now where there's been a snow pile at the Minneapolis airport.
I saw that.
That is like finally down to 2 inches tall or something like that.
Because we got
it feels similar. It just kind of feels like we're dealing with similar things here in Minnesota as what you just described in Utah. So
do you guys like getting out and plowing and all that kind of stuff? But it's got to be pretty fun to play in if you've got the right machine.
For sure.
Oh, we have a blast in it. It's kind of a challenge. A lot of people will say a trail is impassable, but to me, that's kind of a challenge to see if we can break through the snow and get through the trail. Now, a lot of our trails are kind of sensitive when they get water saturated, and we do our best to try to keep trail damage to a minimum. So we try not to create ruts and stuff. But a lot of it is just in areas that are on like a north-facing mountain that it's a massive snowdrift, and so the trail getting up to that could be dry, but then you'll just hit a snowdrift that's 5 to 10 feet deep in areas, and other ones they are melting, and so they're getting a lot smaller, but they take some momentum and some big tires to get through it. And for me, it's kind of an obstacle and a challenge. I know a lot of people out here enjoy trying to get through snowdrifts, and so for us, absolutely, we run big tires and portals, and so we try to break through as much of that as we can.
That's so fun. Well, I think, was it back when, were we on with Bud in June?
Or something like that, yeah.
Early June or late May? Anyway, you were just preparing to go for a ride out to the Mecca there.
Yeah, that was the big Moab ride, right?
So I'm just curious to give us a little bit of a review of how things went and what came out of this trip that was unique to past trips that you've made there.
Yeah, no, we had a great time in Moab. Moab is obviously kind of the mecca of off-roading, especially when it comes to jeeping, which has been around a lot longer than side-by-sides. But now side-by-sides are really prevalent. They're extremely popular. And we had a great time in Moab. We hit a lot of the iconic trails that you think about that are really the epitome of Moab. So if you ever get out here, those trails are going to be Hell's Revenge, Fins and Things, Poison Spider. These are a lot of trails that you read about online. We did all of those, and in fact, I'm really behind the 8 ball, but we've done a couple episodes on our YouTube channel about various rides that we do, and I think we've completed one of the episodes on Moab, but we've got 2 more. We've actually hit Moab twice since then. We've got some more information that we're compiling on our YouTube channel as well to kind of showcase a lot of trails that Utah has to offer, and Moab's kind of cool. We had a local guide there that's a member of our group, UTV Utah, that took us around, and usually when you go out riding, you ride the trail, you don't think much about it, but there's a lot of history and historical information regarding dinosaurs. I mean, there's dinosaur tracks, there's fossils, a lot of stuff that you drive right past and didn't know about.
No way.
But our local guide knew all about them, gave us a whole rundown about the history of the dinosaurs, what dinosaurs they were. It was very informative. And so when we come out with our YouTube video on that, we're going to kind of showcase some of the background and some of the details about some of the trails in Moab that are I'm not going to say more significant, but equally as significant as the beauty and the trail itself.
Well, and what was the video that I think I saw after the visit that was going around? It was that huge, whatever it is that you're like straddling 2 rocks and you're like this massive incline trying to like get over a huge gap. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, so there's a couple that would fit that similarity, but on Poison Spider there's an obstacle called the crack. It's just a deep crack that's probably like 5 feet, and everybody, if you drive straight through it, your tires are big enough to just go straight through it. But a lot of people use it as an opportunity to kind of flex their machine and show it off. But there's a lot of obstacles in Moab. And they have opened up a new trail that not necessarily a new trail, but a shoot off of a trail, Hell's Revenge, with some new obstacles on it. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and we didn't get to run it. But we had a good time, and we showcased a lot of the main obstacles that you'll see in Moab on Hell's Revenge, like Escalator, the hot tubs, tip over challenge. These are all obstacle names that when you come out here, you definitely gotta, even if you don't ride them, you got to check them out
for sure.
They're pretty iconic.
Well, I was just going to say, but I mean, Hell seems like a rough place as it is. Do we really need Hell's Revenge? Does it need, I mean,
I know,
and Kevin he's a newbie into the industry. So we're just wondering, do you have any trail names that aren't about spider and poison and hell and everything? Do you have like unicorns and rainbows or like fluffy ice cream or sweet and easy, anything like that to get us started?
Unfortunately, no. That would be I think probably the paved road that gets you to the actual road itself. But no, they're named that way for a reason, because there is a lot of carnage that comes out of Moab. So you definitely got to make sure that you're prepared. You got the right machine with the right upgrades.
Well, and in fairness,
you don't want to get stranded in some of these places.
For sure. And in fairness to Kevin, I mean, I've been in this industry 18 years and I haven't taken a proper ride down these trails, but so we're going to be leaning pretty heavy on you guys to lead the way on this one.
Whenever you come out here, the invitation is open. Just let us know, and we'll make sure that we treat you guys right when it comes to Moab. When it comes to Utah, because we've got Moab, we've got Sand Hollow, we've got the the Paiute Trail system, which is in Marysville, Utah. That's more of your mountain type stuff. And then we've got sand dunes. Like you can literally ride in the snow one day and then be down in sand dunes and 100-degree temperatures that afternoon. It's crazy what Utah weather is and the difference in elevation can do in one day.
Well, and a perfect opportunity for somebody to be able to take a trip like that and, just have every reason to have a Highlands cargo box in the back of their vehicle so they can.
Do you see what he did there? He's so good at slipping in some promotion on that, right?
Yeah, throw their snow gear in there and then, take out and put on their shorts and whatever that they need to
it's
change
perfect.
into. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that is a lot of the reason why your box, I run it on my Pro R. I actually did a video on it as well, kind of showcasing it, because in Utah, you literally have to pack a tank top, especially right now, you're going to pack a tank top and shorts. And then at night, if you're in the mountains, it's going to get down in the 30s, the 40 degrees. So you're going to need a sweatshirt and long pants in the evening. So having a big box that's waterproof, because it's going to rain on you, or even in the mountains, like we'll still get snow in some of the higher elevations this time of year. It's absolutely crazy. You have to have a big box that's waterproof, and it will keep your stuff out of the weather when you're riding in Utah. It doesn't matter what time of year it is.
Yeah.
Are there certain machines that are more popular in your neck of the woods, Bud? Are we, we see in some areas Hondas really seem to have a lot of the market share. Other areas is Can-Am. Polaris is pretty widely spread over all the different communities. Do people ride certain kind of machines more than others, or do you get a pretty good mix?
That's a good question. We get a lot of, obviously you get a lot of Polaris razors, whether it be the typical razor, the turbo, or even the Turbo R or Pro R. Those are extremely popular. Can-Am is really popular with the X3s. Some of the enclosed machines have gone really gangbusters in Utah for the simple fact that, with our weather, in this weather, you can run air conditioning, and in the wintertime, you can run heat. So the Can-Am Defenders, the Polaris Rangers, those are actually doing really well with that new Expedition that Polaris came out with. It seems to be real popular. We're seeing a lot of those pop up. It just depends on the terrain that you ride. With a lot of the rock crawling and the sand dune stuff, it's mostly razors and Can-Am X3s. But when you get up in the mountains, you'll see a little bit of everything. Hondas, Yamahas, Kawasaki's. You'll see Can-Ams. It's really a conglomeration of everything. But we do a lot of rock crawling, and the X3s and the Polaris Razors seem to be kind of the ones that dominate that. Except for the new Kawasaki KRX has jumped in and does extremely well. So it's probably those three, if I was going to choose machines, the KRX, the Razor, and then the X3 would be the three most popular here in Utah.
Well, let's back up here, because did you say you've seen multiple Expeditions already out there?
I was just going to say, I mean, this is so fresh in the market at like $1 billion. Absolutely. So amazing.
Yes. In fact, mine's at the dealership. I just got to go pick it up. They've been bugging me for 2 weeks now to go get it. I've just been out of town. So yes, they're here. Our dealerships have them. We've driven them. They're on the ground. So I'm excited to actually go pick mine up.
Wow.
Would you call this machine more of just another sort of iteration of the typical side by side, or does it really evolve the industry in some ways?
So that's been my big question about this machine, because I've got a Razor, I've got a Can-Am, I've got a Ranger, and so it's like, man, what is this machine, and is the price tag truly worth it? It's an expensive machine, and yes. So is it actually worth it? We had the opportunity to test drive them, and I actually really like this machine. I feel like it's expensive, but I do think that at the end of the day, it's going to be a machine worthy. I don't know if it's worthy. I think all the machines are overpriced, truthfully, but sure. Is it worth the higher price tag than, say, a Ranger? To me, driving it and looking at it, I feel like it is. I think it's going to be my family's favorite machine in a hurry for our mountain trails and some of the stuff that we do that aren't like rock crawling or sand dunes. I think that's going to be our favorite machine moving forward.
Just because of the comfort of the ride, because of, just some of the amenities that it comes with, or is it just, the makeup of the vehicle itself and everything is what gives you that feel?
No, that's a great question. I think I really like the fact that they changed the seats, because prior you were stuck with a Ranger with the bench seats, which, for a couple hours are good, but if you're riding in one of those all day, they are not the most comfortable. Mm-hmm. So the change up of the seats is really nice. The fact that they've changed the interior climate, like before it was your air conditioning is either on or off. You can't adjust the fan level as much, and then you can't adjust zone. So like you couldn't turn it on to your feet. The new Expedition is like your car. You can turn it on defrost, you can turn it on feet, you can turn it on face and feet. That's never been available before in a side-by-side. So to me, that's very appealing. And the fact that it has, a rear enclosure on it is another part that's appealing, and that you can lay down the rear seats, because there's a lot of hunting that happens in Utah. And so bed space is crucial. And so I think that adds another layer of aspect and appeal to that machine that maybe others don't offer.
So you're really given the advantage of being able to expand your bed by taking those seats and laying those seats down. Now you've got even more space that's accessible versus the bed, which oftentimes is completely separated from the cab by, body or whatever it would be.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is appealing. I don't know how much I'll use that feature, because sure. I'll probably have people in the back seat. So laying those down is not an option. But if you were just two people, or a farmer, or maybe an outfitter or hunter, the fact that you could put those two seats down and have extra bed space, I do think is going to be appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I've watched about too, just the whole heating part of our industry over these last 10 years, that we got into the aftermarket space for heaters because they were so needed. But it seems like increasingly machines are going to be coming with factory heat, just sort of as standard to even stay competitive. So I've been mindful to watch that our Firestorm heater line is probably going to be obsolete within a few years, at least in terms of the new machines coming out. But the AC is just a game changer, right? I mean, we have tried to puzzle over how to do aftermarket AC for the better part of 5 or 6 years, and it's impossible to do on an aftermarket standpoint. But to have it at the factory like that, again, I've got to believe we're moving towards a time where most machines, that to be competitive, they've got to have factory heat and factory cooling.
That's once you drive in one, it's hard to drive in another one without it. And so I think, I think getting back to your point about your guys' heater and your system, I don't know, what we're seeing with a lot of people is, in these economic times, the people that were buying a new machine every year are not. They're working on their current machine. Very few people are upgrading. And so maybe some of those older machines, they'll add heat to them once they actually see the benefits. Now, air conditioning obviously is a game changer. Yeah. That's one that it's extremely hard to add anything aftermarket, and then the reliability is, incredibly difficult. But it's in Utah, if you want to use your machine throughout the year, having heat and air conditioning is definitely something that you can do it without it. But once you've done it with it, it's hard to go back. I'll tell you that much.
Do you actually, when you talked earlier about needing to be up in the snow sometimes at this time of year and other times down where it's hot, are you literally toggling back and forth on these machines between heat and cooling on the same day?
Yep, you will do that in Utah on the same day. When you leave in the morning, if you leave early enough or you get back late enough, you're going to be running your heat in your machine even when it's 100 degrees outside in the middle of the day. it gets awfully cold out here in the desert at night. And most people are in sweatshirts and long pants come the end of the day, even though it hit 100 degrees and they were trying to take it all off midday.
That's amazing. Well, I know that it's fascinating to hear about the experiences people are having with the Expedition just because of the newness of that vehicle. And we certainly don't want to spend our time talking about just the Expedition and getting product reviews on this, but it's such a fascinating vehicle, and we haven't seen one ourselves in person. So the fact that you've seen multiple and you have your own still to go pick up or whatever, I had to take the bait and at least ask you about it, because I think people's impressions of it is that it's a pretty unique machine, and I think there's just a lot of buzz around what it's going to do to the industry. So
yeah,
I'm just curious with what's left of our riding season until we start to transition and into some of the more utilitarian aspects of how vehicles are used around the Midwest here. What are you looking forward to in the coming months as you're seeing the extremes represented in the weather that you guys are riding in? What are August, September, October riding months like in Utah?
That's a good question. So right now we've got a lot of areas. So southern Utah is a lot lower elevation than say where I live here in the suburb of Salt Lake. And so if in September and October, everybody piles up, and not so much September, but October, November is when it's getting cold here in Salt Lake. Everybody heads down to southern Utah because it can be 45 degrees here in Salt Lake, and down there it's 70 degrees. And you're talking it's only a 3.5 hour drive. So the climate is extremely different. And so right now, a lot of people are getting out of southern Utah and they're going up in the higher elevations and mountains. So a lot of people are riding our mountains right now because it's cooler. It's they're beautiful this time of year. Lakes, streams, rivers. It's gorgeous. So a lot of the rock crawling kind of dies down this time of year in July and August, and all that will pick up again come September. And then we've got a lot of events in Utah that take place that start in September, October, and even into November. You can ride year round in Utah, depending on where you go, and stay out of snow. And you can either stay, where it's nice and warm, or if you want, if you've got a machine capable, riding in the snow is a blast. As you guys know, where you guys are at, I'm sure there's a lot of snow riding. We get a lot of snow. And if you're in one of these heated machines, or you're in a machine with some sort of enclosure, whether it's just putting an enclosure on your razor or whatever it is, you can go out and have a ton of fun. So right now, everybody's up riding in the mountains. The desert type stuff is pretty vacant. A lot of people can do it, and they do it because there's really no competition out there right now. Yeah. But our mountains are some of the best riding you'll find anywhere. We've got some gorgeous trails and mountains and lakes, and we've got thousands of miles of trails in Utah. We have more national parks than any other state in the country. So we've got a lot to offer and a lot to see in Utah. I hope you guys, when you do come out, plan a little extra time to do some riding while you're here.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Bud, thanks for joining us. Before we let you run, one more question. If you could wave your magic wand in the upcoming year and see one thing happen, whether it's in your own garage of vehicles or something in the off-road community, just anything at all to happen, what would you want to see?
That is a great question. I think what I do see coming is a lot of changes in new machines. I think the Polaris Pro R kind of up the game for a lot of people, and I see Can-Am responding. I see a lot of these manufacturers responding with their own machines, and I hope we see some other machines that are sport, but I hope we also see some competition in the space of the Expedition, the heat and air conditioning. I think those machines, we're kind of going from one extreme to the other, truthfully, but I think we're going to see a lot of big changes in both sides of those. And I'm excited to see. I'm curious to see. I know Can-Am has their unveiling coming up soon, and rumor has it they've got a machine that's going to compete with the Pro R, and maybe they have something else up their sleeve. And all these manufacturers are constantly up in their game. So I hate to speculate, but I'm excited to see what the next year brings.
Yeah, we were talking with somebody who owns a Can-Am dealership, and that's exactly what he said. He said that he doesn't know for sure what Can-Am is coming out with because they haven't even let him in on it yet. But they are definitely going to be coming out, and they've been doing a good job catching up to Polaris for sure. It seems like Polaris kind of just iterates one step forward, but then some of these guys are doing a pretty good job coming back after them.
But maybe Bud knows more because
maybe
he's
Bud
seen
does.
more expeditions
maybe he does.
than anybody else.
Yeah, we should ask him, Bud, do you have any insider info? Because you were sort of vague about your Can-Am information there.
I wish I did. I truly wish I did. I do know Can-Am is obviously a great company, and they've done an amazing job at coming out with new products. And so when I see Polaris come out with something and Can-Am doesn't necessarily, now the argument can be made that the X3 will hang with it, but truthfully, like a 2,000 cc 4-cylinder motor is not something that anybody else, other space that anybody else is competing with. But I do know Can-Am is not a company that sits idly by. So I'm excited. I wish I had some more detail. Unfortunately, I don't. They don't give me any information because they probably know I'd tell people.
Well, Bud, K-Book and I are corn chip and salsa junkies with imperial stouts in hand. So in a couple of months, if you can find us a restaurant that has those two things, we are going to be happy campers.
I can absolutely make that happen. So when you come out here, just give me a heads up. We'll make sure we give you the Utah treatment when you come out.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Well, for Bud Bruening and Kevin Book, this has been Peter Kapsner, and appreciate you listening to the MotoAlliance podcast. We'll catch you again next time.